For the better part of my career, more than 20 years, I've been a corporate girl in supply chain management and logistics or classical marketing. But come 2020, COVID and the Great Reset, I got an opportunity to work in a non-profit organization which was helping young unemployed people to be able to break out of that trap of unemployment by connecting them with their first employment opportunity, allowing them to build experience, build that reference letter, and then move on to bigger opportunities. My name is Novantu Nkulwana, and in this season of my life, my ambition is to help the emerging social entrepreneur to be able to flatten that learning curve, scale up their projects, and deliver more impact quicker than ever before. Join us on the NPO Bootcamp as we show you how to level up your social enterprise. Hello and welcome back to the NPO Bootcamp. Once again, we are connecting you with some of the country's leading edge social entrepreneurs, organizations that are on the forefront of creating a thriving culture of entrepreneurship in the country. And today, to speak to us on this subject is a former friend of mine from yesteryear, Moeketsi Nchoba. Mones, Duman. How are you, Mones?
Great, and you?
Very good, thank you.
Good to see you in the space.
I see. Thank you so much.
Last time I saw you, you were on TV1, TV2.
Mones, that was SABC 1.
Oh, okay.
TV1 is from I was a little one. SABC 1 Mones, and we are talking 1999 to be precise. Correct.
Oh, yeah, one.
You have a very good memory. But let's get into our backstory because I think it's quite fascinating. Do you want to kick off on how we got to know each other?
We grew up in Welkom a little bit, even though you were there for a number of years, but I was born and raised there. But we met at Procter & Gamble, and then it happened that your mom taught half of my family.
I know, right? Yeah. I'd forgotten about that. Yes.
So that's basically how we became Wanesu.
Let's reminisce a little bit. Indulge me about our times at P&G because that's one of the favorite places that I've worked at. I don't know about you.
No, definitely. It was my grounding place in terms of corporate governance, everything that I know about corporate. It started in that American culture. So I learned a lot, and every job that I've done, even in my own businesses, I apply everything that I've learned there. Absolutely. So it was the best business college ever.
Absolutely. For me, I think one of the things, it was just out of the box thinking on another level. Yeah. We always hear about thinking out the box, but P&G took it to another level, right?
Definitely.
And just their culture and their attitude, very relaxed, but very results driven, and very young organization, very pro-learning. I find in some companies, they train you when they think you're a problem and we're trying to get rid of you. So put them on training. But at P&G, that was the culture.
It was a DNA. Everything was all about training and simple things such as writing a report, that it was all about one pager. And then people were used to, like, coming from varsity where you can write 30 pages. But for them, it's like just summarize it into one
100%
page and then go straight to the points. What are you trying to?
It forces you to crystallize your thinking, to be clear on what am I saying, and then eliminate all the fluff and the drivel that makes it a 30-pager, but just cut to the chase quickly. Make your points quickly and fun.
And that's the first place, actually, it's the only place where I've worked with very multicultural people, because there were people from all parts of the world and even parts of Africa. And it made it fun to learn different cultures and interact with people.
I've never seen as many expats that I saw as when we were at Procter. Yeah. And I never wanted to leave when they went. Just like, we came to Africa.
Some even remember it here.
Listen, right? But can we talk about when they sent us for training to London?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, it was just after 9/11, as we were chatting earlier. And it was scary because this is the first time when you travel, you have to take off your belt, take off the shoes.
But can we just rewind? Do you remember 9/11, like the day it happened? I was in the office. I remember that day. Yeah. And I was sitting in the same cubicle area with Chaim. You remember Chaim?
Yeah.
So Chaim stands up and is like, a plane has just flown into the Twin Towers. Yeah. And we're like, what? And he's got the web open and we see the blaze. And the next thing, another one. And it's like, Armageddon is here. Yeah. So we fast forward. Then there was a travel ban, right? So we went, how long after 9/11?
3 months, I think.
3 months or so.
Yeah.
So it was still a little bit sketchy, right?
Sketchy because we're going to UK, which was also the target for the militants, and not knowing that landing at Heathrow, it's a safe place and all that, and even you don't trust people that you're sitting next to in the place.
But we were like, we would die for Procter. We would die for,
Yeah.
for that marketing course. We are going.
Definitely.
But
Yeah.
it was such an amazing experience, Wanesu. I remember you talked earlier on about the multiculturality of, I don't know if multiculturality is a word, but I've made it now. There were people from Egypt. I still remember a young lady called Basma. I remember Nabil.
Yeah.
I remember like so many colleagues, and the one of the most amazing things about Procter was that they had these great brands. They did amazing things on the brands, and they shared and allowed you to reapply those learnings. So you could do some really, really cool stuff. You find people that are doing things in similar markets like you, and you just tweak it for your market, and you do amazing, amazing marketing interventions.
And even when I look at the amount of work that they gave us, it's what the industry, as I move to other jobs, don't trust you with the type of work. So although you were called assistant brand manager, you were managing the brand.
You are
But
so
in the industry, you were photocopying and doing all the nonsense job that they don't want to do. But there they trusted you and trusted you with resources on top of that.
What is, you are so right. When I joined in CMK.
Yeah.
So when I started, there was a blue file that had all my work for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
And one of my first projects was to evaluate the launch of Pantene.
Yeah.
Procter had just launched Pantene. Well, Mark called it Pantene in South Africa. So it was my job to now go and analyze. The brand strategy was to do this and deliver this from a media point of view and accomplish this from a distribution and share point of view. Have we done it in the 6 months? So it was my job to go and assess all this and work through the data and then come up with a report to say, was the launch of Pantene in South Africa a success or not?
It was scary on the other hand because I remember it was my 6th month. I had to kill a brand. And there was an Ace Bleach, which I joined as an assistant brand manager, and it was produced locally here in Kempton Park. And I was given to say there's a problem with this brand when I joined in January. You need to revive it and come up with, and even if you want to change product formulation, anything, go to the plant, work with them. So I established a relationship for 5 months with people at the plant, and then I went to management to present, and they're like, no, it's not working, it's not making numbers, so we need to kill the brand. And now I need to communicate the news to the workers, and these are people that I had a close relationship coming from student politics. Workers are very important. You form a relationship. Now you have to deliver bad news of saying you're going to be fired. The line is going to be killed. You're going to lose your job. So it was a very difficult decision. And my manager tried and said, can I just pass this one? And like, no, it's part of these hard decisions that you have to make in business.
What did you want to pass? Was the decision to kill the brand up to you, or the communication that the brand is going to be killed?
No, I wasn't told that it will be killed. I was told that you need to revive. That's your job.
Right.
Revive the brand so that we can get sales and then get more shelf share and all that. And I was just out of varsity having fun. And I realized when we now are doing numbers and say it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
And then the hard decision is we're killing the brand, which I never thought that it would happen with a company that has money. But at the end of the day, they were like, you have to make these types of decisions and call to say, we are in the business of making money. If it's not making money, kill it. Let's find another brand within the portfolio. And in finding another brand, there was no another brand that can be produced locally. So it means that the jobs will move to another country. I'll just bring a finished product here.
But here's the thing. Even though you had to make really tough calls at Procter early on, as a young person, early in your career, I think they gave you that framework to be able to do that.
Definitely.
I remember during one of my times there, they put us, a cohort of us, on the 7 Habits of Successful People.
Yeah.
There was a group of us, and we got a coach in to come and take us. So they gave you the skills to be able to make those tough decisions and to be able to communicate those tough decisions.
And it's the safest environment that I've ever worked in, where you can challenge senior people and they can engage you. There's no egos involved. People are, yeah, there were some that were junior that managed me, but they learned through me that I need to learn to manage my emotions and all that. That we're doing business here. At the end of the day, we can get into a room and discuss and say, you're not performing, you're not doing this. But when we get out, we can say, let's go for lunch.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have very fond memories of Procter. And then you left and you went where? How did you end up here now at Ecubed?
I jumped. Every time I leave a job, I go into completely different industry. So I left Procter, which was an FMCG, went into alcohol, which was completely different. And my role was not in marketing. I was the innovation manager.
Okay.
So I had to come up with new alcohol formulation, new brands and all that.
I remember.
Yeah.
You were working on Brutal Fruit.
Brutal Fruit was part of the category, the non-beer category, also ciders that I was working in. So I introduced Sarita from concept and to the final product with packaging and everything.
Right.
And also worked on alcoholic iced teas because this was the time when Black Diamonds was...
In South Africa?
Yeah.
There was alcoholic iced tea?
It wasn't launched, but from a research point of view, SAB was struggling that these Black Diamonds are now drinking wine. They don't want to be associated with beer because I have money. I need to be seen holding
a sophisticated alcoholic drink.
With cigarettes, cigars and all that. So now their volume consumption was going down and wines was going up. Now question was, how do we target them? We can't do another wine because we are in a malt beverage from a license point of view. So now what can we do with malt beverage to do this? So we were fighting an established category that has a certain language, snobbishness, culture and all that. So you needed to fight it with something like that. Tea was the next thing. And tea, same as wine, it's all about plantation, how it's planted, where it's planted, how it's processed, how it's taken care of in the process and all that. So there's so much similarities. Hence, it was easier to say, let's have an alcoholic iced tea. It will have. So what made it not to be launched was the cost, because SAB was used to saying, a top of a castle, I paid 3 cents. And now you say, no, it needs to be cooked. And then cooking is like, oh no, I can't do it. Because you can close a castle, a milk stout, a Reds on the same line.
Okay.
So now when you come with one line that is dedicated, it's like, no, I need volume.
There's no economies of scale.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
and
got it.
They were a volume-based brand then. Anything that sells less, it gets killed.
Okay.
There was a beer called Crunch. It came with a cocked bottle.
A cocked beer.
Yeah. Okay. So it was discontinued because of the volumes that it wasn't making volumes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that good idea, but not for that environment that is a volume based. It's not a quality brand, because a wine farmer will be happy with little, but SAB will be like, I need to fill millions of trucks every month. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And then when you exited SAB, what was the next industry?
I went into QSR, quick service restaurants, which was KFC, and my first assignment was to kill Pizza Hut then.
When are you just killing things? Just killing things.
I learned earlier so killing Pizza Hut because the price of cheese went berserk. The farmers were on strike, throwing milk away and all that.
In South Africa?
In South Africa. So one of the main ingredients of pizza is cheese. So if cheese is outpriced, then your final product for pizza will be outpriced.
But so that was like a temporary situation. Strikes don't last forever.
It doesn't last forever, but you can't sustain business over months with a commodity that is going on. Let's say, for an example, you're doing chips. The war in Ukraine has made the price of oil to be up. So it means that anything that needs oil, fish oil to be done, it means either you move the price or you still maintain the price.
I get it. Okay, so you go there, you kill Pizza Hut. When I said there's somewhere where you went And I think maybe you started your own thing, but you were consulting. And I remember you got a gig with Barlow World where you were engaging with some communities in I think it was in the Northwest.
In Limpopo.
In Limpopo.
Yeah.
What was that project about?
There was King 4,
Oh,
which was introduced to all listed companies.
Right.
So now stakeholders was key. It wasn't about companies will always say investor about my reporting, but now there's this person called stakeholder.
Right.
And the stakeholders in most cases they don't have profitable needs. They are caring about what you're doing to my environment, how are you harming the community, how are you not providing jobs and all that, and the harm that you are bringing. So as a good corporate citizen, we had to, as part of King 4 principle, report to communities. Then I helped Barlow World Group to work with different communities in different countries, in the countries that they were operating in.
So this was not confined to South Africa. You got to travel again with Barlow World. Huh? That's cool. And then how did you end up here at Ecubed? Tell us about Ecubed and what that is about.
Yeah. So Ecubed, I had a love for education. I left my job at FNB to start low-fee private schools in townships.
You did?
Yeah.
You didn't tell me.
And then Deutsche Bank sponsored me for a year. And then we had offices in their Sandton office.
Are you for real?
Yeah.
Okay, stop.
It was an incubation in a way to get this business off the ground.
So that was the test market phase.
Yeah.
So you come with this idea, you want to do a private school in where? I think you did tell me.
Yeah. So
because you were going into old and abandoned school buildings that were.
So there were 300 schools around the country then, which government was not using. So
they were lying vacant.
Vacant because when teachers retire, and you then move learners to another schools to increase the class size and ratio. Now you are left with a lot of buildings. Then I got friends who were in funding to say, how do I get funds? Others connected me with some funders in Germany who are investors here who had
it's such a clever idea.
And then I had Mamelodi and Soweto as the test market where I was going to get 2 schools in each to get it. So this was firstly driven by their buildings that are empty. They can be used. And I can talk to the likes of Builders Warehouse to say, help me with renovating this. And now with the department and saying, I want the curriculum to be different. And then this is how different it is. So researching number of curriculums around the world and saying, Japanese are good with human maths, I'll bring human maths. The Americans are good with the arts part of it. If you look at Hollywood and all that, I will take part of that and say, put it in the curriculum.
So you were building a modular approach, cutting and pasting from different approaches that you like, and that will give the child the most favorable pathways going.
And with because there was a stats that I came across that there are stats that are not reported of the number of kids that move from townships into town who get involved into accident and then they die. So we don't get...
As in on the way to school, this commuting,
Yeah.
but specifically the degree to which it affects school kids.
Yes, because all of these transport are overloaded. When you say scholar transport, it's always overloaded. And imagine the disaster when it gets into, and in most cases, they are not in good condition. When it rains, the wipers are not working properly and all that. So there was that number that was not reported, which concerned me and said, why are parents sending their children into town? So, and there was also bogus schools where the principal disappears with money come March or April, and then the school stores, it doesn't work. So there's this mentality of saying, if it's in town, it's good quality education. So then saying, let me bring quality education to the township.
So you're trying to solve for that parent who wants the best educational outcome for their kid, but now they're having to spend time, money, and traffic to get there. And there's a risk that the school is not accredited, and there's a risk of the child getting injured on the way to school. And you're saying, cut all that out and
also the
quality
big thing is the relationship between a child and a parent, in a sense that the parent is saying, I've been using 2 transports or 3, I'm tired, don't tell me about homework. I'm not helping you with homework and all that. So this school was not going to ask children to take any work home. You will get a tired child. You give me a child at 7, I'll give you a child at 5, and everything they do it there. And you don't have things such as a sports field, because a soccer field is huge. I then convert that into a lab, where if I have an idea, go into a lab, it has all the instrumentation I need, and then I can even register my ideas, because the highest age is up to 16 years, where you are more creative in terms of ideas. You write them down, you see them at 18, like, oh, I don't believe I came up with this idea. Then you work on them, you get given. So sports, I had Penny Hayes Foundation, I'd already made a deal with them to say, you will help me with swimming, but I don't have a swimming pool. There's an Orlando swimming pool,
Okay.
but it's the Olympic size. And then they're like, okay, swimming is normally 2 months in a school calendar, we can do that. For soccer, the likes of Kaizer Chiefs will say, we have facilities, but you don't bring the whole school. You bring A and B team to come. So from a motivation point of view, it's very strong from a child to say, I'm interacting with people in a professional level, so I can be focused and up to me getting to this level.
So what happened?
And even been trained by an Olympian who says, I've been there.
So if you have that school, I'll bring my kid. What happened?
Politics. So I've got the schools. The day we were supposed to move in, there are people staying there. There are washing machines outside and all that. Like,
No.
okay, we'll take this case to court on the basis of because you demarcation to say this is a learning area. And then if you then use it for accommodation, I can take you to court. Even as a member of society, to say this is meant for X and you are using it for wrong reasons. So I was going to win the case, and the politician came in and said, no, let's do a deal. We want 50% of your profits because you are not from these communities. And I'm like, okay, fine, let me think about it. I went back and said, okay, these are the costs. This is 50% of the investment that is required. No, we are expecting it to be for free. No, it doesn't work like that. You want 50% returns, you need to invest 50%. So it got ugly that the person who was mediating from that political organization got shot. Then I said, okay, let me go back into corporate.
What a pity.
Because this is not working.
What a pity.
Yeah.
So then how do we end up at Ecubed? First tell us what Ecubed is, what it does.
Yeah. Ecubed is E to the power 3, and it stands for entrepreneurship, employability, and education.
Okay.
So it's a project that was tasked in introducing entrepreneurship in schools as early as 2014 by the HRDC, which is chaired by the Deputy President.
Okay.
So they're responsible for the human resource of the country, looking at the economy to say, this is what the National Development Plan says, how do we produce those, and what skills are we going to be drawing from other countries?
Okay.
So that's what that structure is responsible for.
Okay.
So then it tasks CEDA, which is Community and Individual Development Agency, to run with the project.
Who is CEDA on this? What is CEDA?
CEDA, they used to run a university here in Lyndhurst where a student went for free, but you work for the hours that you. So they're still running a college downtown, Maharishi Institute.
Yes, I've heard of the Maharishi Institute.
So the student, there's a call center, Yanandos, on the premises.
Yeah,
So
Maharishi.
on the premises at Maharishi. So I'll go and work for my school, whatever. To cover my fees and all that with the hours and all that. Yeah.
Okay. So let me see if I'm understanding. So if is the assumption that if I go to Maharishi, I cannot afford to pay school fees?
They look for people who are really struggling and all that, because there's a process of.
Okay, and then they make a way for you to be able to earn your money to be able to pay the fees, either through Nando's, I'm assuming other collaborators also.
Yes, collaborators.
Okay.
Yeah. So they will find a corporate where they'll say, here's a student that can give you the skill in the process you are investing into their future. So they produce a number of graduates from the Cedar University through that model. So,
Nice.
so last year they were the head office of Anglo. Anglo moved to Rosebank. So that building, they've turned it into a high school, starting from this year.
You know, some corporates are really, really doing the most in terms of helping communities and helping people that are struggling. Great. So we've got this through Cedar. So how is Ecubed connected to Cedar?
Cedar was formed through, Ecubed was formed through Cedar as an NPO to run with this particular project of introducing entrepreneurship in schools.
Is it a division of Cedar? Is it...
No, it's now independent NPO. But when it started within Cedar, and slowly, with registration process, it takes some time. So now it's an independent NPO, which, from an operation point of view, it's operating within the Department of Basic Education, within the DG's office.
Okay.
And
the mandate is what?
Mandate is to introduce entrepreneurship in schools.
Okay.
So the how part of it, we do it through project-based learning.
Sorry, can I interrupt you one more time? Give us your definition of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so our definition as Ecubed, it's when you do anything of value to help others, and in the process you'll make money. Wow. So if you look at the billionaires around the world, Oprah will say, I just wanted people to talk. That's why I started with a talk show, but I ended up with a channel, a whole TV enterprise. Bill Gates will say, I just wanted people to interact with technology easier, so I created an interface called Windows, which will give them a window into this technology and all that, but make it more user-friendly. And then later, the billions followed.
Even Zuckerberg was on Harvard campus, and he said he just wanted to connect that community. He had no idea he would be connecting the world. Yes. So go back to your definition again. It's adding value.
Adding value to others.
Wonderful.
And helping them with their challenges or problems. So we're doing that in different schools, and we're seeing children as early as grade 4 doing phenomenal things.
Okay, so which schools are you targeting? Primary schools, high schools, all of them?
Grade 2, grade 1.
So right from the beginning? Yeah. Okay, and how
because we use science of learning, and science of learning says we are born with entrepreneurial mindset. And then it's the upbringing that might change that entrepreneurial mindset. But in terms of solving anything, like when you want the most creative kids in the country, you'll find them in rural or in squatter camps.
Tell me why?
They don't have toys from Toys R Us. They will go into the field, and when you get there, they have created models, a town, bridges, roads, houses, and all that. So what they do there, it's something that a second-year student at vets, when they say create a 3D model, will do. And they're like, no, I've been doing this with wires and building cars. And if you say I'm building a building, I can do a building because when I was playing, I used to do skyscrapers and then draw and out of stones create buildings and all that. So they know those 3D models without training, but just with and these are kids that will say, I go home just to eat and go back to my playground, and I go back home very tired.
Because they're so engaged and engrossed in what they do.
There's creativity, there's collaboration, all these skills that are needed for a fast-changing world. You do find them in such an environment.
That is so amazing. So when you package the solution in schools from primary going up, how does it look like?
For foundation phase, we push playful project-based learning.
Okay.
And also that children must play and enjoy everything that they do. So whether it's singing or playing games, all concept needs to be delivered like that. They will grasp it easier when they do playful project-based. For higher phases, we do project-based learning. But the project-based learning is not as we know it, where you are given a project, you submit your project on, you need to work in a group because you are forced to collaborate, communicate, and all the other things that, because in reality, at school, you are told, here's a problem, answer is at the back, don't look, it's called copying. You go into corporate, they say, here's a problem, answer is at the back, find the most cost-effective way of getting to the solution, but work in a team. We need you to don't be a hero, be an A student. We don't have A workers here. You need to work and develop everything. So when you start that from primary level and someone works with the team, they become easier employees. The A student are the ones that are not sharing information. Like, you have this information, you didn't email it to me, because they're used to that for the first 13 years of their schooling, to say, I don't share information, it's called copy.
That is such a fundamental culture shift, eh? So when you get into this age group, what that needs to work in projects, what does the intervention look like? So I'm guessing that at school there's a teacher, let's say grade 3, and I've got my learners, and there's a timetable for what lessons we're going to do when. When does your agenda, how does that get incorporated into the school timetable?
Yeah, so in 2018 when we started, it was incorporated into life skills and life orientation.
Okay.
And also EMS.
Right. What is EMS?
Economic Management Science.
Okay.
Yeah, so those were the 3 subjects. But later we learned, because teachers get moved because of the vacancy.
Yes.
You are no longer a life skills teacher, you're going to teach maths. And then they're like, I'm using the same thing in all languages. Then after 2021, we then decided all subjects should include this. So now we train the whole school, all teachers. So what we basically doing is saying, you need to make sure that children, because right now children sit in a military style, facing the chalkboard, the teacher is in front, like, that's old school way of teaching. Drop the chalkboard. These children are fascinated by the digital things and all that. They will be so engraved in learning when you introduce things such as PowerPoint, or you use papers from magazines and all that, something that they can touch and feel. Not that learning, you are the special learning, whatever. You start making them into groups. They work in groups. And the teachers that have done this project will say, I'm moved from being an educator to a facilitator of learning. And I'm learning so much from children because they understand technology, they Google, they research, their research skills are better than me. And then I'm saying, this is the subject that we're doing today and all that. What do you know? Because you need to do knowledge gap. You don't just go and say, let me throw. You're going to bore me if it's something that I know. Just know that this is what I don't know, and then close the gaps. And then.
But Maneso, I'm struggling already, because if I just think about the school infrastructure, and look at how many kids are sitting on one desk, if there is a desk to share. So how are you going to bring in all this technology? Are the schools, from an infrastructure point of view, ready and capacitated to deal with this? I'm not talking private schools. I'm talking about government, township schools, rural schools.
So the most entrepreneurial people globally, you'll find them where there's problems.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. So when there's problems of overcrowding, I can show you videos of a teacher saying, I used to be frustrated by overcrowded class of 80 learners. Give me any overcrowded class, I'll come fly.
Really?
Yeah. So they will do things such as, there's a school hall. It gets used for this and this. I'm going to take my lesson there so that we have fun and all that. The weather is good outside. We go into the sports field and then we're going under the tree and doing. So you are breaking the walls of classroom that restrict us from saying, it's not enough and all that. And learning shouldn't be happening only in school. It happens even outside. You make sure that, so simple things in other subjects when you do, I'm teaching you how to calculate interest and all that. I would say, let's go to a car dealership. We need to buy a car. Let's go talk to a salesperson. How do I get a car? No, you get to charge this percent. Oh, percentage, that's what I'm learning. Show me how you calculate percentage. So I'm being taught percentage in real life. I'll never forget it when it comes to exam because of how I was taught to say this is how you calculate the interest rate for balloon payment, for where you get finance from a bank, where you put in a deposit. So all those dynamics. So you have kids that are now challenging parents and saying, how much are you paying for insurance? Do you know this and this? Like, oh, wow. But there's this pressure power that even the car industry knows that children have a way of deciding what car you don't like station wagon, but if your children love it, you will end up driving one.
So how we got to this point, I was asking you, do you think the school infrastructure can handle this? And you're saying to me, teachers get creative.
Teachers get creative. There are, within the education system, we have 5 quintals.
Please explain that.
Yeah. So quintile 1, 2, and 3 are a no fee paying schools.
Right.
Quintile 4 and 5 are a fee paying, which we used to call model CE schools and all that. So these are schools that will have resources such as a bus, a rugby field or soccer field with grass and all that. You have a quintile 1 where you have weed all over what is called a soccer field. And just the little center thing is the one where they can play. They can't even play to the other sides and all that. So there are schools like that. There are schools where there's even no toilet facility. But no toilet facility because the whole community doesn't have toilet facilities. But because learning has to happen, there's a place that it's called a school. So there is a classification based on the community where the kids come from. So let's take the suburb from an example where we are. In a suburb such as Alomena, people will grow old, they are not childbearing, and there are no kids from the immediate community that can go to the school. Now you start busing kids from the nearest township like Alexander or Diepsloot to bring them here. And now, because of the source where these children are coming from, it will get a certain quintile. So you do find a school in a suburb, but it's a quintile 2. Because of the type of learners where they come from.
I get it. So because it's in Galomena, I would automatically assume it's either 4 or 5.
No.
But because of how the demographics have changed.
The demographics of the children that are attending. These are parents that can, when you say school fees is 300, I can't afford that. I'm on a 350 from government.
Okay.
So
therefore, Galomena school must find a way to be able to accommodate these kids that cannot pay fees.
It's a public school, and the province will then decide to say, with the Department of Transport, will transport kids from this. Average learner ratio is 80 in a classroom. Here it's 20. Let's bring more children here too. Yeah.
How did we get to this point? You explaining to me the different quintiles.
So there are 5 quintiles, and we operate in all 5 quintiles.
Right.
And the 3 quintiles, some don't have resources, but they are very creative in how they do things and so. So the same entrepreneurial that you're saying, passing it to the kids, we're seeing it in teachers who are saying, I'll make a plan.
Tell me what plans they're making, because maybe I'm just not entrepreneurial, because I'm totally stuck here. I'm like, if you get your quintile 1 school and you've told me now that you're incorporating this thinking not just into life sciences, but into maths and into everything, like my brain's going tilt. How do you incorporate this into maths in a quintile 1 environment?
So there are 2 ways that we implement. One is the project-based learning that I told you about, which also changes the seating arrangement. We'll say, let's have our desk facing each other. There's 4 of us, we're a group. So we'll work
that's
together.
easy. I can see that happening. And do we do this in a maths class?
Yeah, all classes.
Okay.
Because at the rate at which I'm understanding maths, it will be easier for my peer, and then it will be easier for peer-to-peer teaching that we go. Some of you ask what are teachers doing. There's what they call talking walls, where you find a maths problem for that foundation, let's say grade 2. It's on the walls.
Right.
Multiplication, subtraction, Botman's law. So when I'm playing with friends, like, hey man, I didn't get this. Tell me, what do they say about this Botman's law and all that? So now learning happens in a playground, and it happens where they can absorb this learning. So those are the creativities that you find within the.
You know what, Vanessa? I think the penny has dropped when you explain to me how the kids then face each other in a sitting arrangement of 4, because already there's a fundamental. We can talk to each other when we are like that. We are there for each other. But when I'm sitting on my own in my own desk, it's just about me and my ability to learn by myself based on what the teacher is saying. It's a problem. I'm not allowed to speak to the other one because I'm being a nuisance in the class, I'm being disturbing. But if I'm put in that seating framework, which facilitates and says, yes, you can talk to the other person, then the learning is different.
And you will find you walk into control school where we are not running the program.
Right.
You can tell where the teacher is not in class with the noise. But in these schools, the teacher can go to the staff room. Learning still happens because they are working in groups.
Wow.
And they continue. And teachers like, I'm surprised with this because these children are controllable when you leave. So now you have mini teachers. And then now you see this group is getting it very fast.
Yes.
I'm breaking this group. You're
Yes.
going to be group leaders in the different groups, and then I am changing the sitting. So you're creating mini teachers within that. That's where the facilitation of learning happens, where I have people that are helping me to decode the subject.
This idea is now growing on me. So how many schools currently get to experience it?
So we have what we call, for internal language, we call them cohort.
Oh, yeah.
So a cohort 1, we have 12 schools in every province. So we call them deep research. So these are schools where we even have an employee in every province supporting these 12 schools. Training, resources and everything, and very close to them and getting feedback and all that. Then we have cohort 2, where we train subject advisors. They then train teachers and it cascades. But with the message, I tell you, go tell them and all that, it gets diluted. But we are trying that we can do at a bigger scale than just this 12. So the scale grows faster. Then we have where we use online. Everything we say, teachers, there are about 400,000 teachers, more than 400,000 teachers in the system. And
across primary school right through to high school?
Yes.
Is that all?
Yeah, we have 13 million learners in the whole system.
Public, private, everything together. Okay.
So remember, private is about 3%
Okay.
of all the schools. Majority is public schools.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So within this whole system, the core 3, we then say everything is online. Start a course, it's a 10-hour course. The South African Council of Education will also give you points for your development when you complete this course, and do it online and also go and implement. So we have that. We have what we call schools that we learn from. So these might be private schools, some public, but mostly private, who are doing something similar, so we're learning from them. Then there's cohort 5, where it's grade 9s, as part of the department's 3-stream model. So we have children that we say, you have constitutionally, you can obliged to do schooling up to grade 9. After that, it's called FET, Further Education and Training. So after grade 9, you can leave and go to TVETs. But it's not a sexy option. We are now trying to show these kids and saying, do you know that a plumber makes more money than a doctor? A plumber, you pipe best, you have to call them, there's a call-out fee of 450. A doctor in a township doesn't even charge you that much. And this call-out fee hasn't done no work before he does the work.
Just for me to show
When you showing the numbers, then I will consider plumbing as an option, because it was embarrassing that 2020 we had to import plumbers from
we did?
Cuba. Yes.
We did?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did. We imported a number of skills during 2010 World Cup when we were building. We didn't have certain skills. So there was a big hoo-ha about how much we were paying when Minister Sisulu was still there and all that, on the plumbers only. It's because we're not producing enough for the economy.
So how we got to this, you were talking about the grade 9 cohort.
Yeah, grade 9 cohorts, that's where we do what we call GEC, Introduction of General Education Certificate. So there's about 1,000 schools, 1,000 high schools that we operate in there. And the nice, fascinating part, what we do in partnership with Yenza, we do what we call an inclination test.
Who's Yenza? What is Yenza?
Yenza is another NPO.
That does what?
They do measurement of
psychometric testing.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this one looks at your inclination. So we check your academic ability by making you write tests and all that. We don't know your interest.
Okay.
We don't know your talents. We don't know your passion. So this test will say it will balance those.
Okay.
For an example, you get a student with an A in maths, science subjects, and you say, you must be a doctor. And then they realize at first year at medical school that I hate blood and I cannot survive medicine without this. Or you say, go and be an engineer. I hate heights. I cannot be a civil engineer if I hate heights, because I have to build skyscrapers, I have to build bridges and all that. So that inclination will then say, because you are inclined this way, these are a list of careers that you. I did that test. It said that because you're a people's person, if you don't pass matric, because it doesn't know, if you don't pass matric, you can be a good waiter. You can be in an environment where you are working as a social worker, as this and that. Anything that
You want a social work?
Wow. So you thrive in, because when I studied at Vets, I studied computer science and marketing. But when I chose a job, I chose a marketing job because it had to do with people.
Okay.
But I had to program. It was me and the computer. Like, that's boring.
Okay.
I need to interact with people.
Okay.
But when you look at what the marketer does, I'm like, I'll go for that because there's people involved.
Okay.
That's my inclination in terms of.
Okay, so you brought in Yenza to partner with you so that we are not looking just at the academic ability of the learner, but also what they're inclined to, and we can help them make greater choices going forward if they choose to exit at grade 9 to go into further education.
It also helps the kids to have conversation with parents, because parents can be very tough. Even you, when a child says, I want to be a dancer, like, hell no, give me a degree before you come a dancer. And then, but when we sit with you and say, look how much Beyonce is making out of dancing. And now the penny drops and say, okay, is there a market? Maybe there's no market. I need to move my child to another market like US or UK where that art is, people are making money out of it and all that. But when you say, yes, everyone in the family is a lawyer, but this child is not a lawyer. They need to be in another profession. So there's like, no, it's in our blood. We are all lawyers and all that. So it also like, here's evidence, and these are the options, because it gives you a 6-page report about yourself.
Okay.
And then it allows the conversation.
Fascinating. I think I need to find the answer. So let's recap on these 5 cohorts that you've just taken us through. And if I just take a high level look at it, can I conclude that the higher the number of the cohort, the less the interaction they get with you? Is that true? Because at cohort number 1, you've got people that are in the schools, that are salaried people from your organization that provide tools and skills and everything. Then as you grow up, when you get to cohort 3, it's completely online. There's very little hands-on interaction from your organization. And then you get to 4 and 5. Is that how the model works?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay, so let's understand how well you've been able to penetrate schools. First, what coverage are you looking for?
We are tasked that by the end of 2025, we should be in all schools. But
how many, did you tell me the number of schools? You gave me 3,000 teachers, 300,000 teachers, you gave me 13 million learners. 24,000 schools. All quintile 1 through 5.
Yeah.
You need to be in all of them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a big task. So how far are you now?
We are at about 13,000.
13,000, which is what % coverage?
It's more than 50.
More than 50.
Yeah.
And do you take a read on how well you're doing in quintile 1 versus 2 versus 3 versus 4?
We have the company that does monitoring and evaluation on a yearly basis for our funders and also for the education